You know, what has been on my mind this week was a couple thoughts. Power blocks and energy leaks. If we can focus on those two things. So I just ask you to consider that in your own life. What's blocking your power? And then where is your energy leaking? And this fits into the idea strongly that the human mind does not like open loops. I've talked about this in previous podcasts a little bit, but open loops are anything it's unfinished tasks, unresolved decisions, incomplete commitments, or unanswered questions. And what happens is that it creates mental tension, drains cognitive energy, and there's a drive within us to seek closure. And had an experience this week working with just an amazing young lady. Been through some really difficult times. Newly divorced. Husband just really doing some strange things. There was some manipulation, some control issues, and some indifference. And as she's starting to unpack this stuff, she's always, when she came to therapy, it's like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I'd call out to my, friends and sister and say to them, I think I'm going crazy. I think there's something wrong with me. I think I need to go in, and see a doctor and get some medication and things like that. And then we start unpacking it. And so this is after a few months of many sessions of EMDR. And then she enters a session, this past week and said, I was doing so much better. And now there seem to be bothering me. It's like I'm really triggered. And she said the couple of scenarios that triggered her. And I said, well, let's just start with that. Let's just do some EMDR on that because it's been very effective with her. And so we just started with that, where she was at, kind of the triggering event. And then in the process of doing EMDR, it's just fascinating to watch what the brain does. Again, back to this concept, the brain does not like unfinished business or open loops. Trying to resolve, this is what Sigmund Freud talked about, repetition compulsion, that we want to go back in a sense and we start looping. We recreate the same problem over and over and over in our life, trying to resolve a core issue in the past that never was fully resolved, that we weren't able to make sense of, we weren't able to speak about or to address. And so as we're doing EMDR, she told me of a scenario of how her husband treated her. And I go with that. And then another memory popped up, and another memory popped up, and another memory popped up, and another memory popped up. There are individual instances of extreme manipulation, controlling behavior, confusing behavior that made her feel like there was something wrong with her. And when we were done with our session, it became so much more clear to me that, my goodness, she was wrapped up in a relationship that was totally suffocating her. And this is what being in a relationship with a narcissist or a very controlling, manipulative person does. It makes the other person feel like they're going crazy. And so as we unpacked and then we processed, after the EMDR session, I was like, oh my word, so this stuff has never come up before. And the more you're telling me of what you went through, it's like you are so fortunate to be out of this relationship. And you're fortunate that it didn't last that long, because you would have had a miserable life going forward without some significant deep work from from her partner, which it was unlikely that he would ever do that. And so going through this process, it's like the light is going on in her mind instead of going, oh, this is such a horrible thing. I'm in my 20s and I've been divorced and now and I'm going, it's the best thing that could have ever happened to you. The more that I'm hearing what you were living through, and I would say to her, I said, do you think what you just described to me is normal in any relationship? Because she was so close to it, she couldn't really untangle that. And so just seeking some objective, feedback from what I was hearing, and she got, it's like, oh my gosh. And it's like the light is going on and she's starting to be more and more at peace as she's untangling what she had gone through. So anyway, just encourage you to think about the things that keep triggering you in your life. And back to this individual. So from my perspective, there were 5 open loops. She told me specific scenarios that she's never talked to anyone about before. Very confusing interactions with her spouse at the time. And she basically closed the loop on them. Yep, okay, done, not normal. How I responded at the time was completely a normal response to this aberrant behavior, the way I was being treated. Done. And it's like, as we continue to do this and continue to work through things, and I've seen this with others that I've worked with, they just seem to find more peace. The emotional tie to these core issues that are open loops, they seem to be resolved. So if you look at this as the way our limbic part of the brain works from an evolutionary angle, it's like from a survival perspective, unresolved issues signal potential threats or missed opportunities. The brain just treats them as loose ends that need attention. And our brain is adaptive for getting things done, but exhausting in modern life with endless inputs in ideas and these loop that keep hitting us. It's just like overwhelming. And it's interesting. One of the most common things that I see from clients when they check in their weekly therapy session, because I always ask them how they're doing physically, emotionally, and spiritually. When I say physically and emotionally combined, the word I'm tired or exhausted, emotionally exhausted. Well, and to me that screams out, all right, let's take a look at what things you could be dealing with that are yet open loops in your life. And there's a drive in us for closure. We want to complete things. We want to get tasks done. And so, anyway, just encourage you to think of that this week. If there are things that keep bothering you over and over again, examine them. Where do they come from? What are some of the root issues? And if we can get to some of those root issues and clear them out, then it's like the emotional tie to them seems to be severed, even though the memory is still there of what happened. It just does not seem to bother you so much anymore. And at the end of the day, being mentally healthy is to feel strong, confident, have what's called self-efficacy. So the ultimate goal, right, is to be strong physically, strong emotionally or mentally, and strong spiritually, whatever that means for you. That's a healthy quest, and we're all and our brain wants to do that. Our brain is the most amazing thing in existence that is seeking solutions to things, seeking to understand things, and seeking to grow and develop. It's never fully satisfied, nor should it be. And this draws on some Christian principles, and I'm not sure so much about other philosophies, But this idea that to him that receiveth, I will give more. It's about expansion, or the parable of the talents. It's not a positive thing to hide what we have and to be living in fear, because then we atrophy. So it's about growth, it's about progress, it's about moving forward. And then just wrapping up this podcast again, I just got off a session with a young man in his upper 20s, been struggling with addiction issues his whole life, still highly triggered, but's never done any therapy on reaching some of the core issues, some of the root problems that drive the desire for certain behaviors that just create more pain in the long run, because his brain doesn't know how to close the loops. So when the brain does not know how to close the loops and it's not finding answer, it will search for things that will take the pain away in the moment. But the problem is with so many of those things, they just do not work in the long run. They don't last. They make you feel more drained, more frustrated in the long run. That's what I call energy leaks. Your energy is being drained from you as you are participating in certain behaviors that boost your dopamine in your brain. There's many different things you can do to get that. And many of the things that we can access now as humans online is simply a drug addiction. That's all it is. Because certain things you view online will give you a dopamine burst as if you were putting cocaine or heroin in your system. But you're just doing it through your eyes. It is a chemical process. That's exactly where the feeling comes from. But unless we get to some of the root issues and learn to deal with them, close them to the best of our ability, learn from our experiences, learn to stand on our own 2 feet, learn to be strong, learn to confront those things that we're afraid of, and gain the skill to do so, is the purpose of therapy. It's the purpose of mental health training. And anyway, so just ponder these 2 questions. What's blocking your energy, your power from flowing into you? Fear can do that, blocks it. And then participating in activities that have no lasting value in them, and you know what I'm talking about, that just drains your energy. And then it makes you feel worse, which kicks off the whole cycle again, and driving you for more of those aberrant behaviors that simply are not going to solve the issues that you're dealing with. So anyway, I'll leave you with those thoughts. I wish there were just simple answers that could solve everything in our lives, but everyone's life is so different, so unique. So find your own answers. Be forever on a search to find your own answers, because what works for one person may not work for another. But this general concept applies to all of us. The brain does not like open loops. If there are things that are unresolved, that you just are on your plate right now, that are really, really bugging you and constantly bugging you, just deal with them and take care of it. And then journal about it and just see how you feel. Start monitoring what you need to do in order to, plug those energy leaks. Plug them, emotional energy leaks, and then start to open up the channels to receive more power into your life. All right, have an amazing week.